to the Bebetter podcast with Infinity Real Estate Services. True stories from Bakersfield's business owners and entrepreneurs. We have sold over 50,000 homes in the Kern County area, and we are still going. Delete your limiting beliefs. If you have a dream, turn it into a goal. Only massive, inspired action will get you to where you want to be. If you're starting a business or looking to grow one, you're in the right spot. Welcome to the Bebetter experience.
What's up, everybody? It's Lee Barrison here, coming to you live from Infinity Real Estate Services with the Bebetter podcast. I appreciate every one of you guys that are out there listening to this podcast. As you know, this podcast is designed to inspire you. We like to bring people on this podcast not only to inspire you, but to give you some segues in their own life. And this, of course, we know that this podcast is designed for folks out there that are interested in entrepreneurship, folks out there that want to be better in all areas of their life, including their family, including their business, including their health, their wealth, and everything else. So with that being said, I'm kind of excited today to introduce our guest. I've known her for quite some time. She's been in the business for quite some time. She's not only a mortgage specialist, mortgage broker, but she's also a big-time investor, guys. And so, without further ado, I would like to bring Aileen Molinari to the Bebetter podcast.
Thank you, Lee. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. So, with that being said, Aileen, how many years have you been in the lending business?
I started in 2004.
Okay.
So 20 years.
20 years. Okay. So it's been a long journey for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you.
Eventful.
And you've survived.
Yes.
Yeah, you've witnessed the ups and the downs and the normal markets, if there's been any at all, right? But we're not going to bore everybody out there today with the lending and the mortgage aspect of things, right? Because, I think what we're going to talk about today is much more important, and it's going to be more edifying for anybody out there that is an investor or is thinking about becoming an investor. Aileen and her husband, Francisco, are both an investment team, if you want to call it that. They work together closely. They make decisions together. And that's interesting, So I guess, why don't we just start with, where you guys, or what year did you guys decide to venture out and start flipping homes? Because that's what you guys do.
Right.
Yeah.
Flipping homes. So when I started in 2004, that's actually where I met my husband.
Okay.
At the bank. He was a loan officer, because we met at a wholesale bank. So he was an account executive, and I was a processor, aka account manager. I was there for 7 months. I knew I wanted to get into the mortgage business, so I got me a job at a bank just to learn the ins and out, at least the lingo. 7 months later, I decided to leave the bank, and a month after that, Francisco decided to leave the bank.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Okay.
And we were just co-workers at the time. He called me and asked me if I will be willing to process his loans. And
now, were you guys dating at the time, or you
no,
guys
we
were just
friends.
co-workers?
Yeah, we're just co-workers.
Yeah.
The dating part happened after we started our own business together.
Okay.
So, because when I left the bank, he called and asked me if I'm willing to process his loan. So I started processing, his production and all of that stuff. And, he followed me around. I moved to Bakersfield. He started showing up here.
All of a sudden.
Uh-huh. So anyway, to answer your question, when did we start flipping? So as you know, 2007 market crash.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right? I think anyone who was in the business prior to that, had a fair share of trauma, Because I remember feeling like, I can't do this again. I can't buy another property because I lost a few.
A lot of folks out there, Aileen, had bad experiences, I remember. Yeah.
Yes, we lost a few. But opportunities started coming back. I remember picking up a condo on Hunter Avenue right here on Stockdale and California for $23,000. Okay, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So back then, it wasn't really so much of the idea of buying and flipping. It was really more to hold. But as I see that there's just so much, I can't get emotional with these properties. I just start, making a quick, profit. And that's how we kind of started like stacking up our capital.
Okay.
And we started picking up other properties that are a little more expensive, rehab. So that was during, I want to say from 2008 to 2010.
Okay.
So we did a few fix and flip back then. We kept a few. So we kind of got back into the flipping game again this time around because I saw another opportunity. You have to almost see where the wave of the real estate market is going to be in the next, like, at least 3 years.
Okay.
So in 2020, right after COVID, when the interest rate started hiking up, that's when I had to sit him down again and, propose that maybe we should pivot. The production has decreased, and I just don't like being bored,
Right.
So
Okay. So when you mean pivot, you mean excuse me, but going from buying and holding to buying and flipping?
well, pivot meaning because up until 2021, we doubled down on production. So we started helping our team. Francisco stopped producing in 2017. So all we did really is focus on coaching, mentoring like the loan officers we have, and helping them grow. And it's actually pretty exciting. And we made some good success stories with like our loan officers. We helped them produce a lot, so we made them a lot of money. Well, they made a lot of money, and so we did as well.
And it made you feel good, probably pouring into those folks too, right? Yeah.
Definitely. Especially just sometimes showing what we've learned and sharing that with new agents or new people in the business. It's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's actually, it's funny you say that because, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth. We've been in production. We've experienced the highs and lows of production for ourselves, but then when you start pouring into other people and edifying their business, it's really fun to watch them kind of prosper and do their thing.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
Hoping that you had some part of it, for their success.
Yes.
So let's, as far as the flipping goes, so do you recall what your first flip was and where it was and
I think because I've done a lot, it's hard for me to actually really remember which one it was, because
Okay.
we've done a lot. But there are a few flips that I think it anchored in my memory. A few like really, really good win, and I have like regret that to this day I still tell the story. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, my husband and I were talking about it, and he said that must have really hurted you so bad that you still talk about it to this day. And if I can share with you, so during 2009, 2010, when we saw a lot of like short sales and foreclosure, I picked up this one good property, and during that time, it was a big. It's like almost like winning in an auction, because every investors are coming after the same product, So when I was granted the contract, I was so happy. So happy. It was a house up in by the college, by Bakersfield College, and I picked it up for, I won't forget, it was $68,000.
$68,000. And it was a standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, I'm assuming?
Yes, and it's a good solid bone on the property. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, really, really nice sized lot, and it's in a good neighborhood. But I remember, because I'm in the business of lending, I learned how to maneuver like financing in that space.
Sure.
So I was lucky to get the contract on that property. We closed it. I got a hard money loan on it. And I think I didn't think it through, that the money I had at the moment was really just enough for the down payment. I don't have the means. And back then there was, we didn't have the fix and flip lenders that we have now. So I was on my own as far as rehab.
So it was liquid cash is basically
Yes.
what you were having to use. Yeah. Okay.
And this is back in 2009, so production was still, pretty kind of slow. Housing crash, housing market crash. So I ended up letting it go to the next investor who was in line, and I just said, just give me $5,000 and I give it to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I mean, what did you learn from that first experience? Because I mean, obviously, when you walk into a flip for your first time, which I've never flipped a home myself, so I wouldn't even know what it's all about. I've worked with plenty of people that flip homes, but never myself. So when you first got your hands on this first flip and it was completed, what were some of the takeaways? What were some of the things that you learned, the lessons that were taught?
Well, first of all, break even is a win.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Break even is a win. Don't get too. Don't overestimate your ARV. Your after rehab value. I always give myself like 10-15% margin.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Right.
And then if you're getting a hard money loan or through a lender who's ordering appraisal or ARV comes in lower, don't fight them. They're on your side.
Sure.
So if they're saying that the value is this X amount, and the realtor who, let's say, or however you picked up the property tells you something a little higher than that, again, trust your lender, trust the appraisal.
Okay, that's good advice. So that some of the lessons are just keep a pad of,
Yes.
like you said. I mean, because once you knock that wall down, you don't know what to expect. What's behind it sometimes, right?
Oh, totally.
Right. So that's good to know. So you try to be conservative with your ARV, and you don't overstretch it.
Right.
And so with that being said, I mean, gosh, I mean, there's so many back then, especially there were so many properties to choose from. So, like, how do you and Francisco, how do you guys navigate and, dictate or find a good home, a candidate that you'd want to pursue?
Right. So, I love to really exploring my options as far as like finding properties. We've tried picking up some properties from what we call nowadays like wholesalers. But what I learned from there is the margin, on your profit is actually thinner. If you get it from someone, it's basically like secondhand deals, as I call it.
The wholesaler.
The wholesalers.
Yeah.
So I try to just go after my own, find my own properties. As a matter of fact, I'm scheduled to door knock tomorrow in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Is there a specific home that you're going to door knock?
Well, I have one flip in the area.
Okay.
And I think it's a good opportunity for me to just introduce myself to the neighborhood and say like, well, I just picked up this property and if there's any possibility that we can sit down, if you're looking into perhaps remodeling or whatever the case may be. I'm excited. I mean, I always get excited having like good conversations, like right now.
Okay.
So sometimes when I door knock, I'm really just looking for a good conversation with the homeowner.
Great. That's fantastic. Okay, good. So and let's get back to the financing side of things real quick. Because I mean, you and I had coffee a few weeks ago, and you impressed upon me that you are working with lenders to where if the ARV looks good, it's not necessarily a really true hard money loan where you have to come up with a certain percentage down. Tell us more about this creative financing that you talked to me about.
So again, as I mentioned earlier, I wish this fix and flip lenders that we have now, we had back then. because they're very aggressive. And so technically, if you find a property, okay, just for conversation, for easy conversation purposes, like let's just
I find a home.
you found a home.
Yep.
Let's just say the true ARV is 1 million.
Okay.
Okay. The bank, the bank will extend a loan up to 75% of that ARV. Now remember, ARV is after rehab.
Okay.
Okay, meaning that more likely you're picking it up a lot less than that, right? So let's just say the ARV is 1 million.
Okay.
Okay, the bank will extend the loan up to 750.
Okay.
Okay, again for conversation purposes, let's just pretend that the sales price was 600.
Okay. So there's a difference between a 150 between sales price and the loan amount that they're willing to give you.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's a few things to remember with fix and flip lenders, Lee. So loan to cost is if you have flip properties like 3 or more in the past, they consider you as experienced. Okay, and it opens a floodgate for opportunities. As a matter of fact, like they will lend up to 95% of loan to cost.
That's crazy.
Okay. Now, loan to cost meaning your sales price. The sales price of the property, they will finance 100% of the rehab. Okay, if you have to provide a budget for your rehab.
Sure.
So they will lend up to 100% of that. And sometimes if you're picking it up from, let's say, a wholesaler and there's an assignment fee, it also includes in that loan to cost.
The assignment fees included.
Right.
Okay, good.
So
Yeah.
loan to cost, they will extend up to 95%.
Wow.
Okay, so going back to our little scenario, ARV is 1 mil. You're picking the property up for 600,000. Okay, let's just pretend that the rehab is 60. Okay.
Okay.
So if you add 600, okay, 95% of 600 is 570. Okay, then you add the 100% rehab on top of that, 570.
So there's no money out of pocket yet.
No money out of pocket.
Yep.
Okay. So 570, and then you add the 60,000 rehab there. It's what, 630? Okay. If 630 is under the ARV of 750, okay, then you're technically just really going to put down 30 grand.
That's not much at all. But then the flip side is they understand what the value is after rehab.
Right.
So then the profit would be between the 630. Am I right? 630 and $1 million. If you were
right. So if you are on point with your rehab budget of 60, okay, which means that your loan, purchasing the property at 600, add your rehab of 60 there, and you flip it for 1 mil, you made like a good chunk, like 400. What is that? 300 something.
Wow, that's a really good payday right there. Yeah, and one of the things that go through my head, used to before I understood the whole flipping thing, was, gosh, it's going to be so much work. I've got to be responsible for this loan that I got to pay back and this and that. But in reality, there's not very much work involved in flipping homes. You already have your crew, right?
Yes and no.
No?
Oh, I forgot to mention, sometimes like in that scenario, Lee, again, okay, the 1 mil ARV, if my loan to cost of 95% is still relatively lower than my 75% ARV, I can actually have the bank include my holding cost.
Oh boy.
Right. So if I say, I'm at liberty to just call it like, okay, 6 months, collect 6 months in interest, so I don't have to worry about you for 6 months.
Wow. That's really, right. So basically you don't have to make any payments for up to 6 months. Wow. So that's like a breath of fresh air too, right? So there's not as much pressure on you, because once you normally close on a loan, you got 45 days till you have to make your first payment, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah. So another question that just went through my head right now, Aileen, is, how do you mitigate the risk of a within a fluctuating market? The markets go up, they go down. Say you buy at the peak of the market, but perhaps, there might be the interest rates might go up, which might reduce costs. How do you mitigate the risk?
I think for me, because I understand the business pretty good, at least like pretty well than most average flippers.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea where like the market is going to land in 3 years, and
Okay.
that's why sometimes I give myself an extra margin of 5-10%, just in the event. You always have to have an exit plan, Lee. If you get stuck, for example, 9/11, right? That's just something that's just
It just happened.
it just happened.
Yeah.
Right. And you didn't predict that.
Sure.
I didn't see that coming 3 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you have an exit plan,
Mm-hmm.
you should be fine. Sometimes what I mean by exit plan, you can either hang on to it. I've done that in the past. I can't sell it for the price I want. Let me just rent it, and then we'll take a look at it again in 2 years. It's like buying stocks, Lee. Like you can't buy stocks. Use your grocery money for next month to buy stocks.
Sure.
Because sometimes you might just sit on it.
That makes sense. And going back to what you originally said in the very beginning is that break even is actually considered a win.
Yes.
Right? So have you ever not won before?
No.
Okay, so you've always, breaking even was basically
Right.
the worst case scenario for you. That's good.
Lee, I play cards, so I play poker.
Okay.
And I think playing poker really taught me to be patient. So in a situation where I miscalculated my ARV, then I'll hold on to it. So the idea is not to get up on the table, to keep playing.
Don't walk away.
Don't walk away. That it's not done yet. You haven't lost yet. As long as you're still on your chair, and keep going.
That's a good approach. I like that, Aileen. So tell me this. For anybody out there that's listening today, that wants to get started or enter the fix and flip business, right? What are some pitfalls that they need to be aware of? What are some things that might take place that maybe you can enlighten them so that way it doesn't happen?
Again, don't underestimate
Mm-hmm.
your rehab.
Okay.
Be true, be real with yourself.
Sure.
I see that often a lot, like, and they'll say, oh, 60,000, I should be able to put this back in the market. I know what it costs to rebuild the kitchen. I know what it costs to rebuild the bathroom. As long as I always tell new flippers, don't get emotional with your procurement, especially when you're picking tiles and, hardware for your plumbing and stuff like that. Don't get emotional,
Be logical with
be
everything.
logical.
Yeah.
Again, the numbers has to make sense. You also, when you look at a property and let's say you already anticipating that you need a totally brand new kitchen, for example. You have to take in account what kind of faucet you're gonna install. Sometimes you have to move plumbing, you have to move electrical, and it can cost and time consuming sometimes.
It all adds up. Yeah.
They all add up.
So when you're picking tile for a fix and flip, are you looking for the highest end tile, or are you looking for something more average that looks higher end?
Depends
Okay.
on the project.
Okay.
There are projects.
So a house in the
that-
hood, you're going to look for the higher end type
Right.
tile, right?
Well, it's funny because it's really, you can't replicate the same play on every
Sure.
flip,
Yeah.
because it's a completely different animal. So high end flips, as it's high end, you can't just put mediocre materials there.
So you don't believe in putting like Formica countertops
No.
in a $1 million home?
Actually, to be honest with you, nowadays, because I think because I'm in the space of like buying materials, you'll be surprised how cheap you can find some good deals on granite or quartzite.
Because some of those companies, they're just trying to get rid of the product so that way they can re-up on
Right.
new products. Yeah. So being a smart shopper is something you would advise them to be, right?
Yes, and again, have conversation with other flippers. Sometimes I have some opportunity where someone I know who also fix and flip have extra material so far, or that they had left over from a project.
Sure, uh-huh.
I'll give them an offer. Let me take it off your hand, so you don't have to store it anywhere, pay storage.
Yes.
Let me just pay. Let
Yep.
me just buy it off you.
Eileen, I got another question for you, just out of right field. Have you ever purchased a flip but haven't started the work, but you already had a buyer on the hook, and then they told you what they wanted to put into the property after you agreed on a price and all that good stuff? Or have you not?
I try not to actually really because they get emotional. They get emotional. Then you end up installing kitchen up to their liking, and then what if they
Don't like it.
They don't like it, or they decide to go somewhere else. A lot of times when I get in a situation like that, Lee, I offer them a discount. Like, buy it now, then you can do whatever you want to do with it later.
So you maybe don't even complete the project.
Right.
You just sell it to them in its present condition, wherever you end up at.
Yes. Actually, this year I had two.
You've had two of those?
I had two situations like that.
Yeah.
The guy that I hired to do the job for me, one of his workers showed interest on the property. So I told him, if I finish the job, this is how much I'm going to sell it for. If you want to take it off my hand now, I can sell it to you for this much.
At a discounted price.
A discounted price.
That's fair.
And since he's in that space of like handyman job, he said he'll just do the work himself.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, he'll probably just critique your work all the way through if you were to.
Totally.
Yeah, I get that. Eileen, that's good advice right there. So, like, regarding these contractors, even realtors or anybody else, like, how do you select the people that you want to work with? How do you select the people that you can trust?
It's not easy. It's not easy. As a matter of fact, I have some crazy stories,
Yeah.
of people deceitfully took advantage of me and my husband. And so it's just, just like in business, I use the term hire and fire fast, just so you can get to your right people.
Yeah.
And
I've heard the term be slow to hire, quick to fire.
I heard of that too, but I think for me, the hire and fire fast
Just both.
work.
Just do both.
Yeah, work
That's
very
good.
well.
That's okay. Yeah. So then what about the wholesalers or the realtors? Like, do you have like a specific agent that you use as a headhunter for these properties, or do you have multiple agents that look for these properties? How does that work?
I have some agents who calls me because they know that I'm in the business of doing this. So for example, this one agent called me while I was on vacation this year, and she said, I have this house, the seller wants me to list it, but there's no way I can show this property. The condition of the house is very, very bad. When the minute you open the front door, flood of like bad smell just welcomes you.
Yeah.
To be honestly, so I ended up.
And you're thinking this is right up my alley, right?
So yeah, so she called me and said that there's no chance that I can sell this to any regular buyer, Aileen, any flipper, even that, So I said, okay, well, before I went in, I didn't even look at the property. I look at numbers. Again, I try
Logic.
You cannot get emotional.
Yeah.
So I looked at the area. I looked at my ARV. I told her, well, if your seller will sell it to me for this much, I'll take it. So we ended up closing on that deal, Lee. And the minute we start demoing, we extracted like 40 dead animals in there.
Oh my gosh! You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. So that's basically the reason why she didn't want to just list it. It's not for a regular buyer, definitely.
Doesn't sound like it. Yeah. It takes a very interesting, or it's interesting to me because it takes a special eye in order to see through the mess of the 40 dead rodents or whatever, right? I've got a good friend of mine that flips houses, and I've shown him some of these houses, and I just think to myself, I would never, ever even think about buying something like this, right? Because I don't have the eye, right? But when I show that property to him, he's like, "Oh my God, this is perfect," and I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever makes sense," And so you obviously have that eye. You've seen enough to where you're able to look past all the things you have to fix,
right?
And you're able to visualize the end product,
Right.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, speaking of that, 'cause, I mean, I have a lot of experience in this. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, 'cause, I mean, I have a lot of experience in this. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, my husband always compliment me because he say the same thing. I don't see what you see, So every properties him and I have owned, like our primary home, are all fixer upper.
They're all fixer-uppers.
Yeah, fixer upper.
Yeah.
And I get so excited because I see a good, like what we call it, like good bone of the structure, right? I'll take my family and friends. I'm excited about the project, and all my friends will show up and just look around like,
Aileen, are you doing okay?
yeah. No, so the funny thing is, like, they won't criticize me at that
Sure.
time,
Uh-huh.
but the minute, like the house where we live in right now got featured on like a magazine for contractors. And, I get like good compliments from my friends saying that I didn't see that this was your vision. I walked that project, I was afraid, I was so scared for you, is all they tell me, I was so scared for you. But I am, I grew up in the Philippines, Lee, so, I kind of came from nothing. So like little things like that don't really.
They don't bother you. Yeah. Well, I think that, you growing up with nothing or poor, obviously it helps you in a lot of ways too, right?
Yes.
Because, you don't need the perfect home. I mean, you can't do anything with it in your field, in your line of work. But no, I get it. So let me ask you this. I mean, you've been flipping homes for how long now?
Well, since we start call.
You said 07 maybe?
2008.
2008. Okay. So, and here we are, 16 years later. Where do you see yourself landing? Like, is there a destination in mind where you're going to finally end this career, or is this just going to be a hobby of yours till whenever?
I think I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
And
I can tell. Yeah.
I don't think, I don't really have the retirement word in my head at all. I feel that for as long as I can find me a good thing to or good property to fix and flip, I'll be more than happy. It really keeps me going too. It feels like it.
That's good.
I enjoy every minute of it.
Also, Aileen, just another thought that came to mind, these wholesalers out there, they get these assignment fees. Do they ever pick these things up for themselves, or do they just look for the small change and just like try to hand it off?
I'm so happy you asked me that question.
Yeah.
Because, I think the community really needs to be educated,
Of
the danger, of dealing with wholesalers. Because I've seen some good wholesalers who are actually being very, very honest and truthful to their sellers. They're letting them know that, we are technically a realtor. The condition of the property is not like MLS ready. It's
Sure.
not an MLS material, but we have a pool of investors, blah, blah, blah. We can market it to that channel, and those are good wholesalers,
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, if the homeowner is already discounting the property, let's say 50 cents on a dollar, I don't think they need to wait 6 months to close escrow.
Sure.
Right? So one really, really cool story I have. I took an Uber to work sometime last year, and I got in a conversation with the Uber driver, and now that Uber driver actually brings me deals. So he asked me a question, what do I do? And, excitingly, I told him that this is what I do. I buy and sell homes. And right away he told me, I have a friend, my best friend lives in Delano, who had just gone through divorce. They're selling their house. I think they're talking to someone,
Okay.
Can you see if you can help him? So right away I called the friend, and sure enough, he mentioned, it's so easy to catch the names of like wholesalers, like ibuyproperties.com or LLC, So I asked him, like, who are you talking to right now, as far as like who are you selling the property to? And so he gave me a random, like, very catchy wholesaler name, LLC. And I said, okay, well, it sounds like, my call is a little too late. You're already in contract with them. But I wanted to see if I can just maybe guide you through and see what, what I can like maybe school you with, right?
Yeah.
I said, send me a copy of that contract. I want to point something out to you. So right away he texted me, he screenshotted it's only 3 pages.
This is the assignment contract?
The assignment contract. Okay. Now, mind you, obviously this guy doesn't know what a wholesaler mean, right? He said he promised me that that this wholesaler is going to close escrow in 10 days. I said, oh, interesting. So send me the contract. Let me read it for you. Sure enough, a fine print at the bottom, it says that the buyer, which is We Buy Homes LLC, for example, I hope that's not a real name. But
it's okay if it is.
Yeah, so
they're just getting more publicity out of it anyway.
So anyway, sure enough, I looked at the contract. At the bottom of every page is basically saying that we are a wholesaler. We're going to reassign or have the liberty to reassign this contract to someone else, and that they have 180 days to find an investor buyer.
Okay, so so that 10-day was just a big fib.
It was what I call in our business league, it's called bait
and switch.
Right?
Yes.
So when I pointed that out to him, he kind of got upset. He said, well, they told me 10 days. I said, yeah, but the contract you signed doesn't say so.
It says 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
They can close in 10 days if they find the right buyer, but they have up until 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing about this particular seller is there was a cooling off period, like discrepancy, or not discrepancy, but this disclaimer on that contract that he actually has the liberty to back out if he wants to within 3 days. And come to find out, I didn't catch him too late because it had just happened the day before.
He signed the contract the day before.
Yeah. So when I pointed out all these flaws on this contract to him, he called the wholesaler and canceled.
Did you pick it up?
Yes, I did.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah. Very good. All right. Aileen, we're going to come to a close here in a minute, but why don't you do everybody out there a favor? Why don't you share with them, some words of advice on, what best practices in the flipping community?
Well, first of all, if you're a homeowner selling a house, read everything before you sign.
Good advice, yeah.
Especially fine prints. This assignment contracts are very, very vague, and it really just protect themselves. As a matter of fact, like one quick story, the wholesaler was forfeiting on my deposit one time, and I had to fight them for it. And on the contract, they are entitled to the deposit, not the real homeowner. It's pretty wild. So
the wholesaler is entitled to the deposit,
yes,
not the homeowner.
Correct.
So you tie the homeowner up,
right?
But the assignee is the one that.
Correct.
Oh boy.
So again, be careful what you guys sign out there. Read everything, and if anything strikes you that kind of doesn't sit well, ask a lot of questions. If you're looking to get into the fix and flip game, my piece of advice will be, just, pick up something that you can chew, I mean, I bought some burnt properties in the past, so, that's not for a rookie.
No.
Or that's not for a beginner. So something that's more like cosmetic, you're not moving plumbing, you're not moving electrical, something small.
Okay.
And those properties, the margins are not that big.
Right. Yeah.
But again, break even is a win. Break even is a lecture in life that, I consider, and so just take it one step at a time. That's
great. That's great advice. And, I was thinking about that. I mean, even if you are getting into the business, I'm assuming don't go big on your first one, right? Be very conservative with your first one, maybe just to get some experience under your belt, because you are a rookie, so you need to play rookie cards, right? Very good. So Aileen, with that being said, why don't we do everybody out there a favor too? Give everyone out there your contact information, where to get a hold of you, just in case there's a wholesaler out there that you might want to get at, or somebody might have a house out there that they might want to turn you on to. So.
Well, they can call me. They can just call me or text me. My number is 818-687-3826. I'll be more than happy to price any, possible sale. If you guys want me to look at, like maybe yesterday, actually, I showed support to another flipper here in town, and he asked me if I can just swing by his project just to pick my brain. So,
Get some advice, some
give
Aileen
him
advice.
Aileen advice.
Uh-huh.
More than welcome to just hit me up, and I love doing that.
That's very cool.
I feel like when I am helping someone, win, I'm learning at the same time.
That's great. I'll tell you what, if I was anybody out there, including myself, if I ever choose to flip a home, I'm not going without you. I need you there. Okay. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
All right. Very cool. Guys, thank you for watching the Be Better podcast with Aileen Molinari. She's a great inspiration to a lot of the flipping community. And she's also a great lender. She's been in the business for a while. I think she knows a thing or two. So feel free to reach out to her if you guys have any questions or if you want to pick her brain. Again, thank you for watching the Be Better podcast, and everybody out there, make it a powerful day. Thanks.